There's no reason to. If black has nothing here. I don't. There's no hurry. You don't get any prizes for winning faster. So my suggestion is just take your time. Find the best move. If you're not sure, then just play a solid move. And so that's what I did. I just brought the knight back because I just wasn't sure about all the variations. So he played queen. He played knight back, covering some critical squares. Because the threat of somehow lining up on against h7 mate is always in the air. So that's kind of a move that a lot of players do, is just put the knight there. But it does kind of take the knight out of the game. So I'm not terrible. And now I did find the best move. I did play queen h5 on the very next move, and it's still strong here because the bishop only has really 2 squares. He can't go to e7 because the pawn on f7 hangs with check, and I also win the rook. So pretty much f6 or d8 were the only 2 squares, and he brought it all the way back. And so look at black's back rank. I mean, undeveloped, 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 kind of developed. That's it. Strong, strong, strong. Can be strong, can be strong. So, and don't forget the pawns. The pawns can also be weapons. So it's just a great, almost plays itself kind of attacking position. And there's really, to me, only 2 moves here to consider. Interestingly enough, Rybka preferred a rook lift, rook to f3, which I looked at, but Junior 10, preferred the pawn push, g4. So, at first I had Rybka look at it, and I'm like, oh, I missed the best move, rook f3. And then I have Junior look at it, and Junior likes g4, which was what I played. So I guess they're both good. He played his queen over to e7. And I took some time here to think, because I was up on the clock. And that's what will happen usually. If you have a better position, your opponent will burn a lot of time up on the clock. And finally, I'm really happy to say I played the best move, which, I'm looking at g5, I'm looking at f5, I'm looking at everything. King h1 to put a rook on g1 came into concern. And finally, I just said, you know what? Who's not participating in the party? And the answer is the knight on d2. So we bring him back in the game, and now we're really happy. And again, this is where the patience comes in. My opponent got desperate here, and he played f5. He didn't have to do that. That was just, now that drops a pawn. If you notice, I've got 3 on it. I've got the bishop on c2, g4, and the queen on h5, all on this guy, and he's only defended twice. So he's giving up a pawn for, I guess, just, that's what will happen when you put pressure on your opponent. They'll just, finally can't take it anymore, and they feel like they have to do something. Now, it turns out I didn't play the best move here either. I just took the pawn. And it's actually much stronger just to play, oops, that was the move I did play. The best move is g5 exclam. And that is a real killer, because then what you're going to do, you're going to put the king on h1 and the rook on g1, and then you're just going to open it up, and he's just dead. A sample variation that the computer gives is knight d7 to try and hold up g5, and but then you can just take and open up on the rook, so the queen has to stay there and babysit the rook. So the rook moves out of the way, so now the queen's freed up, and now you can just bring your king over and put the rook on g1, and it's going to be over. I just don't see how black's going to last long in this position. So anyway, but in the game, I just I took the material because I felt like my attack, even though I'm losing a good bishop, my position's still very strong. And that's the problem with having your pieces on the back row. He played a5, and again, I didn't see it. I wanted to move my knight on e5, and I was worried a little bit about queen takes pawn here check if this knight here on e5 moves. So I decided just to play a little bit of a cautious move, rook over. Probably wasn't necessary, but that was probably better is just to move the king over and get on with it. But again, I just felt like no need to rush. So rook came up to a6. Now I begin my assault down the g file, king h1, rook f6, no problem. I just move the queen to g4, bishop c7. He's going to try and help himself through exchanges, which is generally a good idea when you're defending, is to remove some of the attackers. I continue with rook g1 with my plan. He takes, obviously, where you take with the knight, keeping a strong knight there. Rook b8, again, I guess he's eventually going to try and break through on the queen side. And now I played just kind of an interesting move just to see what he would do, because he was starting to really get in time pressure. And you just never know, I mean, yes, I'm hitting the pawn on d5, but he may move his queen, I mean, you just never know what your opponent's thinking, and they could get flustered and see their queen, and suddenly, if his queen, moves here or something to protect this pawn, then, mate, bam. So you always want to give your opponent a chance to go wrong. So this was just some psychological stuff on my part, just to see if he would make a mistake. And he didn't. He brought his other rook over, but it still just gives him a lot to think about. Here, the computer hates my next move. My next move was just pure psychology. I was just wanting to repeat the position, not because I was going to give him a draw, but just to maybe let him think I might consider a draw. And he is higher rated. So, he's, like I said, he's 1900. And at the time, I was 1761, although I had a couple of big upsets, one even bigger than this. But maybe I'll at some other time you'll see that game. But anyway, so he blundered. I mean, it's not a piece blunder, but it's positional. He brought the rook off the back rank, and you're going to see why that's going to be a problem in a second. So sometimes there is benefit to just repeating the position, just to see what your opponent's going to do. Rook g3, preparing to stack the rooks. Rook b6, rook eg1, and now I've got kind of a reverse Alekine's gun, only the queen's in front, but it's still strong. Now g7 is attacked 3 times, only defended twice, so he dropped the rook back to defend. Now, what would you play here? Take a second and look at the board. What do you think White's best move is here? Yeah, I hope you found the penetrating queen c8. That's a very nice move. And now White is firmly in control. I've got my queen into the back rank. It does several things. One thing it does is it pins down this knight to the king. We've got a pin here. Also, I might come over here with ideas of attacking here and attacking the rook, and also if the rook moves, attacking the pawn. So queen a8 was also came into consideration. Those were all possible moves. And my opponent now moved his king. He's got less than 5 minutes. I have about 20. He's got 5 minutes left in the game. It's sudden death now. And I had to calculate if I can take that pawn on g7, give up the queen. He's going to give up his queen and a pawn for my 2 rooks. And the question is, can my white king, avoid getting, I wasn't worried about mate, but perpetual. And after a long thought, I used up about, 7 or 8 minutes here, calculating everything, and I finally realized I was fine. And I saw the move at the end of the variation. But you have to see that move if excuse me, you have to see that move if you're going to go in for this. But here it is. Rook takes, it's all forced. Queen takes, rook takes g7, and now this was the move I saw before I went into this that I saw would be a problem for black and cause some trouble, and that is this move, queen d8. And that's a very strong move. It hits the rook's attacked. The rook can't go off the f-file because then the knight here on f8 hangs. So it only had 1 square, and it was very easy to calculate. Now what would you play? Well, I took the pawn. No reason not to. Grab a pawn, and it's not just the pawn. It's I anticipated his next move, and so it allowed me the e4 square to pin the rook if the knight moves. So that was another reason I played it. Attacking the rook. He played knight h4, protecting the rook, and we attacked the. Now the computer just likes d5. Computer just says just go push the pawn. And that pawn's going to be hard to stop, or he's going to have to, give up something. But in this position, I just played knight back. And now the big question after knight takes, which piece do you take? Do you take the rook, or do you take the knight? Which piece? Quick, you got to find a move here. Take the knight. What? The rook? No. Wait, am I getting mated? Wait a second. Rook g1 checkmate. Yes, take the rook. No rook g1 checkmate, because after the check, queen comes back to b1 and stops mate on the back rank, and you're happy to give up the queen for if he wants to go rook check, you'll just take it with your queen, and you have plenty of extra pawns to win it. He played h5, I played queen d1, and he resigned because the knight is, every square the knight can go to is covered, and the only square that's not covered is h4, and if he plays there, I'll just play queen takes check, and he'll have to play rook h7, otherwise I win the knight, and then these pawns are going to go. So that was my game. My opponent's flag was about to fall, and he resigned. Hope you enjoyed that. It's Michael Jeffries, and talk to you soon.